Nice dance pad, Joe. He needs rainbow to go with his character. Hello, Reapers. My name's Seth, and we are back in for some more Trove to Trove. Or should I say, hello, Reapers? Because that's been the joke going around the Discord. I absolutely love it. So today we're going to be talking about most of the stuff that was actually mentioned in the recent dev live stream. There's some exciting stuff planned for 2018 that they actually did end up talking about and kind of leaking to everybody. So it's really exciting stuff. Very, very pumped about it. I want to give a shout out to Shirokiri because they actually continuously grab all of these questions and answers from the dev stream and end up posting it on the Trove forum. So I'll put a link in the description to the forum post itself, because we're not going to end up reading every single question. Most of all, we're going to end up picking apart, the ones that are like the most exciting. And there's quite a few ideas and things that we're going to end up speculating on. But before we get into any of that, I would appreciate if you would like the video. Makes it show up in searches and stuff, and then ultimately more people can end up hearing about all this stuff, right? So, without further ado, any plans for additional professions, so gardening and rune crafting and stuff like that, are going to end up being the professions in the game, and the devs say that we do actually have plans for more professions sometime in 2018 as well. If you feel there is a profession missing, then let us know via the forums. So I'm guessing that means that they have a profession already planned for 2018, and they're just taking feedback for maybe other professions that would end up being added to the game in the future. Then there's going to end up being a question about Binding Darkness. Can you find more uses for Binding Darkness? Additional uses and methods to acquire Binding Darkness will be added over time with future content updates. I would like to see more ways to attain it. I don't necessarily want to see more ways to actually spend it. Apart from some tweaks, are there any plans to expand club level beyond 10? Thankfully, the devs say probably not this year. I would hope that they just don't plan on it in general, because it's very inaccessible for the majority of players in this game outside of the people that have monster clubs. And then on top of that, the people that actually grind and force their players to actually grind adventuring and clubits and stuff like that, because ultimately the system is very, very slow, right? So we're focusing on more ways that players can earn experience for their clubs and earn clubits for their clubs, rather than adding higher club levels. And then the systems that they already have built were meant to be expanded upon, though, so they're likely going to end up introducing new fixtures in the future. Now, I want to point out as well, we talked about this in another video a couple months back, where my good friend Stratos ended up actually going into the game's code, extracting a bunch of files, and found that there already are a lot of other fixtures in the game's code. These could end up being broken ones that didn't end up making it into the final product of the game. Some of them are fully fleshed out, and we know for a fact they're going to end up getting into the game in the future. More notably, there's actually a giant house that can be upgraded to tier 3, which we expect is going to be increasing your club capacity, right? Because of the bug that we ended up having, where the club capacity ended up going over 751. It's just food for thought, food for that. So any possibilities to change club names? No plans on that. Maybe sometime in the future. Would you consider adding the ability to transmute two types of gem dust into another? So take fire gem dust, air gem dust, fuse them together, and get water dust. They specifically say that they don't plan to provide a method for that, but if they did, it would not be worth it. Like, it would be very, very costly. So I guess with that said, it seems like there's just no plans. Can we get Brilliance added as a more periodic reward from daily challenges? Maybe not necessarily from daily challenges, but we do know that we need to end up making Bound Brilliance more available to players, and they're looking into it. Plans to change adventurine farming in any way, shape, or form? There will be ways to earn it. There will be more ways to earn adventurine in the future. At least that's good. I'm expecting that's going to end up happening when they end up revamping all the NPCs and stuff. Will the Fire Elemental World map get a rework so that you can actually see the islands on the map itself? The only reason I want to grab this question is because they mentioned that they are working on a quality of life update for the map in general that hopefully is going to end up fixing that one issue in particular. I would most likely want to see the issue of having our character on the map show up on top of everybody, because otherwise I can't see where I am. I can't see where I'm looking as far as the map is concerned, and I don't like the compass being over my head. It's gross. Any news on tradable chaos chest items? I only wanted to mention this because my recent video talking about tradable chaos, or not tradable chaos chest items, but just opening 2,000 chaos chests, I didn't end up getting a single tradable item out of that, and lots of people were speculating that I needed to actually go into a different map because my club world is built on the alpha code, so maybe that's why I wasn't getting any tradable items. However, the devs actually confirmed right here, right now, that tradable items were removed. We're looking at other options, but no, there's nothing to announce right now as far as tradable chaos chest items. So tradable chaos chest items are just out of the game. If you end up actually getting anything tradable out of the chaos chest, obviously it seems like it must be some type of a leftover code, not necessarily something intended. Are there going to be more items that Luxian, the Flux Dragon, is going to end up selling in the hub for dragon coins that is going to end up draining players' dragon coins? Because the devs specifically say, we do want you to spend all your dragon coins, so maybe later. Now, there's a couple solutions that they could do with this, but I don't know. I mean, ultimately, they want us to spend more dragon coins because it means potential more sales of greater dragon caches, which means more money for the company, right? Any plans to revamp or buff the Draco at any time soon? They actually do say that it is the next class that's going to receive big changes. Now, this is interesting because the last time the developers ended up talking about a class getting a rework, they were talking about the Boomeranger getting a rework. Now, the Boomeranger itself is not necessarily a broken class or anything like that. Most of all, he still has knockback on his abilities. That needs to be removed. And then also just the damage of some of his abilities needs to be scaled appropriately so that he can keep up with some of the other characters. But it seems like they've either already worked that out and aren't talking about it anymore, or they've just dropped that completely for the Draco to end up getting the rebuff, which is fine because the Draco honestly needs a lot more work than the Boomeranger, and I would love to see the Draco kind of shine back in the sun again as being a character that would even be playable, because as of right now, it isn't really, despite the fact that it still is such a cool character. Any plans to end up changing the loading screen? Nope, they don't have any plans for that. Oddly enough, they actually do have different loading screens on both console versions of the game, but on the PC version, we still have the loading screen from years ago. Why are Spinner and Starfire Dragon Egg fragments not dropping? The fragments are extremely rare, but they are available. The question was asked incorrectly, unfortunately, because the Spinner Dragon Fragments and the Starfire Dragon Fragments, I actually talked about more specifically why they don't drop in the respective video telling you how to actually get those dragons. So if you're curious about that, you can check my tutorials because there is a very big reason why it seems like they never drop, that the developers don't seem to actually recognize, in that the enemies that you kill a lot less frequently than any other dragon fragment dropping in the entire game, meaning that it's that much more difficult. They need to scale the drop rates accordingly because otherwise they are pretty much impossible. Like, seriously, they are. Rumors of a new tier of gear on top of Stellar called Astral is going around. Any truth to that? There will be more gear in the future, but we haven't locked in a name or specific details yet. We're working on massive changes in 2018. So I don't know whether that means that they're working on massive changes in 2018 so they're not focused on the gear, or they are acknowledging the fact that they are working on gear that's going to be on top of Stellar. Now, the interesting thing is, how is that going to end up being implemented? Are we going to end up seeing gear that is even harder to forge up than Stellar gear? Because Stellar in itself is already time gated, because technically speaking, you need to have Titan souls in order to actually forge it up. So I would expect that this next tier of gear is not necessarily going to be called Astral Gear, but it's most likely going to be some type of lunar-based gear, because it's going to end up taking lunar souls, which they do say that there will be more and better gear in the future, meaning that they might not even stop there, and they might go as far as making a gear on top of that that actually takes Divinity Souls, which, if they end up going that route, personally speaking, I think that's stupid, because Stellar gear is already very hard to attain for most players in the game, and let alone like forging it up being time gated, and now suddenly we would have even more time gated gear on top of that. But this is all just speculation and theories, so we'll see what ends up happening when it ends up getting added to the game. Hopefully it just means we would see a new set of gear. Maybe we would see a new ring level like quality as well, but you know, I don't know what would happen with that. Also, how strong would it end up making us? Would it make us too strong? And then would there end up being gems that would end up being stronger than Stellar as well, which we'll talk more about that in a little bit here. There is a reason why I am suspect of that, though, but That would be really bad. So they do also ask, when will we get to know who won Yabaki? Yabaki is the Shadow Gonda. I had a video talking about that a couple weeks, if not months ago. They said that they'll announce the winners next week. No estimated time when they're actually going to give out the codes to those winners. Any plans to release a patch to fix some of the issues introduced with the latest big updates before the next big update? So meaning that, are there going to end up being any hot fixes and changes before the update that's actually planned for March? And they do actually say that there's one large hot fix to address some of the issues in Adventures and to release the events for upcoming holidays tentatively for February, meaning that they're planning to have a big hot fix come out that's going to kind of rework a lot of the Adventurine and Adventures and stuff like that. Probably not going to be that big of a change, most of all fixes, and they're expecting that to come out in February and potentially end up adding a bunch of events to the game's code. Well, not necessarily adding them into the game just yet, but they say that the next big update hopefully is going to end up being a month after that. So that's where in February we can expect this hot fix if it doesn't get delayed, and then hopefully in March we're going to end up seeing new content added to the game. So that's very exciting that they're actually working so hard towards all of that. Special worlds with playstyles similar to the tutorial worlds. Will there ever be something like that added to the game? Yes. We can't say more than that, or we would spoil our biggest plan for 2018. We're excited to share more news on that, but it's something we want to get out to everybody in a big way. So that's very exciting because, as you all know, if we go to the tutorial world, if you're a new player, you know about it. If you're an old player, you type /tutorial to actually go into the tutorial world. And it's pretty much very streamlined, focused content, which is very broken in a lot of ways, but it's very, very cool. It does need to be fleshed out a lot more, and I feel that Trove could end up benefiting, to an insane degree by actually having worlds that were pre-generated and pre-built, either by players or by the developers if they actually hire a map maker that's good. But either way, we are going to possibly see that in the future, which does lead to the next question right here, which is, can we expect tougher mobs designed for endgame stats outside of the Shadow Towers, similar to how Radiant Giants used to work back in 2015? Ultimately meaning, the Shadow Tower enemies, like when you go to Ultra Tower, they're asking, are we going to end up seeing something like that just in a normal Uber world or something, right? So they actually say we're actively working on what the next layer of combat and PvE progression will look like, meaning that they actually want to add something that is going to be different than what the game has been thus far. We mentioned a while back about not releasing U10 until we could change combat in a meaningful way. So hopefully that means we're going to end up seeing a rework to the combat. Maybe some of the characters will synergize with others a little bit better. The Knight kind of saw a little bit of a sneak peek of this rework when he ended up getting it so that his ultimate ability would end up affecting all of the people around him. But I'm not expecting them to go too in depth as far as rebalancing and reworking the combat and stuff like that, because ultimately speaking, the combat's already good. A lot of it just has to do with server issues. And I think most of all, what the devs don't like is they don't like people going out and soloing all of the strongest worlds in the game. So most likely they're going to be talking, like when they're saying that they're trying to work on the progression, they're probably more leaning towards trying to find a way to make the game difficult enough that you're going to have to play with other players rather than just playing alone, which if executed properly could actually be awesome, but if it's executed poorly could be game breaking. But they also say the same is true for future versions of the Shadow Tower. It's on our roadmap of 2018 and we're targeting around the summer, so likely after 2 major updates have been released in 2018. So that means that most likely we're going to end up seeing a change to the combat after the update in March, and then after the update after that. The updates usually are 3 months between each other, right? So hopefully that's going to be something exciting. Another thing too to actually look at though is that it specifically says U10 plus. So that begs the question, is there going to end up being Astral Gems? Let's just call them Astral Gems for now, just because we don't actually have a name for it. Potentially it means higher gems than Stellar, which honestly speaking I think would make more people quit than get more people excited. but I do think would probably make them a lot of money, because a lot of the endgame tryhards that spend tens of thousands of dollars on this game wouldn't bat an eyelash to spending tens of thousands more to end up getting even stronger gems. And it also, if the gems are introduced, would make a lot of the badges that up to this point have been almost unattainable, like the subclassy badge. Have all 15 characters at level 30, easy enough, but have them all at power rank 25,000. That would be a lot more easily attained if we actually had a higher tiered gems, which possibly having higher tiered gear could already end up resolving that issue. But even then, we're still gonna be faced with the fact that the gear that we actually have right now ultimately is probably going to end up becoming useless in the face of this new gear, which means that a lot of players are going to be very, very frustrated if this isn't executed properly. And if the gem system does end up seeing a rework, like, obviously I'm going to keep playing this game because I'm a Trove content creator, but I could very easily see and understand why people would want to quit after their hard work has been put into the gems that they've got right now, and after their hard-earned money has already been invested into this game as far as augmenting gems and increasing the level of your gems and stuff like that. And now suddenly to just throw all of that under the bus for the idea that there might be higher tiered gems in U10 and up is kind of scary. Now, that said, U10 is most likely going to end up being a more focused, streamlined content area, so we'll see what happens. It might be something completely separate from the entire game. Maybe even see quests that will reward you with new sets of gear and rings and stuff like that, and maybe no gem updates in general. I would hope that it's something like that, because that would be absolutely awesome to actually farm and play the game to get higher tiers of gear, where it would be like you have to have a high enough power rank to get to the world to even get to the gear in the first place, thus meaning you got through all of the grindy bits to actually earn the right to be in this world that is not only fun, but is also satisfying, because it means more content that you're going to be able to explore and experience, right? However, the whole problem with all of this stuff is the fact that this is all focused on endgame players and endgame content, which the majority of players quit before they even get to U6. So I would focus my attention, if it was just me, on the beginning half of the game and finding out why it is that players don't enjoy Trove for more than a couple weeks or months, rather than adding more endgame content that ultimately is just going to make that endgame grind a lot funner for people that are at the endgame like myself. Of course, I'm excited about it, but the fact that only 10% of players would be able to experience this new content, that is a little bit frustrating. So in either case, though, folks, that's pretty much it. There are a couple other questions that you can just read. I'll put a link in the description below to the actual forum post, but otherwise, you know, it's still very exciting stuff, don't get me wrong. I still am really excited about the idea of U10, and I do think that new gear is exciting, but I really do hope that it's not going to end up being more time-gated garbage, because I really don't like the time-gated stuff in Trove. Like, it's just really, really bad. Or if they're going to time-gate it, at least add some pay-to-win method so that you could just outright buy the gear or something like that, or buy the resource required to make the gear. But then again, that would be kind of a beginner's trap. I don't know. But in either case, let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I would very much appreciate it and really like to know. And then maybe, who knows, maybe it'll end up showing up in my comments video that I do every Monday as well. But in either case, have yourselves a fantastic day, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content that's also going to give you loyalty points to my merch store. Links are in the description for that, where you can buy this shirt and a bunch of other stuff. And for the fans that want to go the extra mile, you can donate to me for absolutely free with Gawkbox. Check links in the description for that. Sayonara and stay epic, everybody.